So I had a lot of fun making my previous video on why I thought Pokemon stopped making the third installments of Generations. So I decided to take a look at another question that I have had for quite a while. This question being, which Pokemon game has been the most successful? Or rather, what Pokemon spin-off game has been the most successful? So what constitutes a game being successful? Is it how many copies it sold? Is it how many sequels the game got? Or is it based off of if people still talk about the game years after it came out? Now, I personally think it is a mix of these things. Now, I am writing and recording the intro to this video before I've done any research into this topic, and so I decided to take a guess at which spin-off series has been the most successful. After thinking about it for a while, the answer I came up with was Pokemon Go. However, I feel like this answer is a bit of a cop-out, since technically the game is free, and it just has in-app purchases. So my final answer is actually going to be Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, followed by Pokemon Ranger. And I'm basing this solely on the fact that I know they both had multiple games in their series, and they were probably the most fun I've had in a spin-off Pokemon game. I am curious to see what series you guys think is the most successful. Leave a comment right now before the video continues and leave your guess at which series or single game is the most successful. Anyways, I'm gonna go do some research and see if I guessed correctly. It's been a month. It's been a month since I recorded that intro and started doing my research. And not gonna lie, this video was a nightmare to research and gather info for. There are a lot more spin-off games and series than I thought there were going to be. It's because of this that I decided to change my factors at determining what spin-offs were the most successful. So, I decided to compile a few lists. One of the lists will be which series as a whole sold the best, the next list will be which single spin-off game sold the most, and the final list will be which series had the most games in it. So let's take a look at my findings. Okay, so this obviously got a little bit stressful just due to how many spin-off games there were. I decided to focus on 11 different Pokemon spin-off series. These were the Pokemon Stadium series, what I dubbed the Pikachu series, the Pokemon Trading Card Game video game series, the Pokemon Snap Game series, Pokemon Pinball series, the Pokemon Colosseum series, the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series, Pokemon Ranger series, Pokemon Rumble series, the Pokemon Park series, and finally the Pokken Tournament games. I also started by looking at Pokemon Go, and this was the reason I decided to change my parameters. So let's look at Pokemon Go first, even though it won't be on any of the lists. Pokemon Go was released July 6th of 2016. And if you are old enough to remember when it released, it was like Pokemania all over again. Literally everyone and their grandparents were playing Pokemon Go. Now, I started with this game because, well, I know how popular it was, and I wanted to look at the sales of it. Well, sales as in the revenue it's generated. And it was after this where I decided to scrap all the mobile games, because I was initially going to be looking at those too, but then this list would have been just filled with mobile games. Anyway, Pokemon Go, from the latest information I was able to find while writing this script, it had made $6 billion in revenue. Now, I'm just going to put that into perspective a little bit. Pokemon is the largest grossing media franchise of all time, and the games by themselves have made about $27 billion. So if the money that Pokemon Go has made is included in that $27 billion, well then Pokemon Go has roughly made up 25% of all the revenue from the Pokemon video games. Yeah, so let's look at some of the other spin-off series. One of the first spin-off series came pretty quickly after Pokemon became a success. It came in the form of Pokemon Stadium. Now, Pokemon Stadium was initially released in 1998 for the Nintendo 64. However, that was only in Japan. If you're old enough to remember, or if you're old enough and you've played Pokemon Stadium in the United States, then what you played was actually Pokemon Stadium 2. However, outside of Japan, it was still called Pokemon Stadium. This one was released in 1999, also for the Nintendo 64. And then we got Pokemon Stadium 2, or known in Japan as Pokemon Stadium Gold and Silver. And this game came out in 2000 and was also for the Nintendo 64. The last entry for this series came out in 2006, on the Wii, surprisingly. And this was Pokemon Battle Revolution. Yeah, I know, I too was surprised that this was considered to be a Pokemon Stadium series, and I actually have fond memories of playing this game. I actually found it pretty fun. Anyway, here's how they all sold. As we see here, the Pokemon Stadium, the Japan version, sold 1.37 million copies. The worldwide release of Pokemon Stadium, or Pokemon Stadium 2 in Japan, sold 5.46 million. Pokemon Stadium 2, or Gold and Silver, known in Japan, sold 2.54 million. And finally, Pokemon Battle Revolution sold 1.95 million. The next spin-off series was dubbed the Pikachu series, and this series consisted of Hey You Pikachu and Pokemon Channel. Hey You Pikachu came out in 1998 for the Nintendo 64, and Pokemon Channel came out in 2003 for the GameCube. And these are how those games sold. So Hey You Pikachu sold 1.83 million copies, where Pokemon Channel sold roughly 380,000. I guess here is a good time to explain that some of these sales were very hard to find any info on, or a lot of info on, as some of them are from close to 20 years ago. So I did have to guesstimate on some, just like the Pokemon Channel here, using other games and how well they sold, as well as some unconfirmed sale numbers online. 1998 was pretty busy for the Pokemon franchise, as another spin-off series was also introduced, this one being the Pokemon Trading Card Game video game. This game was released for the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, and this game had a sequel, however it was a Japan-only release, and that game was called Pokemon Card GB2, Here Comes Team GR, and this game was released in 2001 for the Game Boy Color. So let's take a look at those sales here. The Pokemon Trading Card game sold 3.72 million copies, where its sequel sold roughly 900,000 copies. Now again, due to it being a Japan-only release, it was really hard to find an exact number, just like with the Pokemon Channel. However, I did find multiple sources stating it was around 900,000. And given how some of the other Japan-only games sold, I'd say 900,000 fits pretty well. The Pokemon Snap series is next, and the original Pokemon Snap was released way back in 1999 for the Nintendo 64, and after 22 long years, a sequel was released for the Switch in 2021. So Pokemon Snap back then sold 3.36 million copies, where new Pokemon Snap sold 2.36 million copies. Now, this one actually surprised me a bit. Pokemon Snap has been beloved by a lot of those in the Pokemon community. However, its sales were surprisingly low compared to how much praise it's gotten. But still, not a bad show out for a game where you just take pictures of Pokemon. Alright, so this next series actually surprised me with its amount of sales. And the next series is none other than the Pokemon Pinball games. This series consisted of only 2 games once again. The first one was the aptly titled game Pokemon Pinball, which released for the Game Boy and Game Boy Color in 1999, where its sequel title Pokemon Pinball Ruby and Sapphire was released for the Game Boy Advance in 2003. Now, I remember playing the Ruby and Sapphire one, and I actually had a lot of fun with it. That being said, these are the sales numbers I was able to find. Yeah, Pokemon Pinball sold 5.31 million copies, where its sequel, the Ruby and Sapphire pinball game, sold 1.37 million copies. But yeah, I was surprised that such a simple Pokemon pinball game sold so well. And I was equally surprised at how big of a drop-off it was. The next series is what many consider to be the best spin-off Pokemon games ever. And this is the Pokemon Colosseum series, consisting of the title this series is named after, Pokemon Stadium, and then of course Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Pokemon Stadium released for the GameCube in 2003, and in 2005 Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness released for the GameCube as well. Now here are those sales numbers. As we can see here, Pokemon Colosseum sold 2.41 million copies, where Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness sold 1.42 million copies. Now, again, I was really surprised by these findings, as these games are what many, including myself, thought Pokemon should have been for a while. In fact, it wasn't until 8 years later that we would get Pokemon X and Y, which brought back the 3D version of Pokemon that we all know and love to this day. Now, I do actually have a physical copy of Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, and I've never played through the game completely. So if you guys are interested in watching me play through it for the first time, let me know in the comments down below and I'll see what I can do. The Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series is up next, and these are the games I was rooting for. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon has quite a few entries, actually the most we've seen up to this point. The first games that came out were Red and Blue Rescue Team. They both released in 2005, Red for the Game Boy Advance and Blue for the DS. In 2007, the next game was released for the DS, that being Explorers of Time and Darkness. Then 2009 brought us Explorers of Time, also for the DS. 2013 gave us Gates to Infinity for the 3DS, where 2015 had Super Mystery Dungeon also on the 3DS. And finally, the newest game that came out in 2020 on the Switch was Rescue Team DX, a remake of Red and Blue. Whew, okay, that was a mouthful. Anyway, here are those sales numbers. The original Mystery Dungeon games, Red and Blue Rescue Team, sold 6.32 million copies combined. The Explorers of Time and Darkness sold 4.88 million copies. Explorers of Sky sold 1.49. Gates to Infinity sold 1.37. Super Pokemon Mystery Dungeon sold 1.22 million. And then Rescue Team DX sold 1.43 million copies. The Pokemon Ranger series is up next, and this series started in 2006 with the aptly named Pokemon Ranger on the DS. In fact, all of the Pokemon Ranger games were on the DS. 2008 had Shadows of Almia, and 2010 brought the series to a close with Guardian Signs. Well, at least for now. I hope they revisit this series in the future. Anyway, here are the sales of those games. Pokemon Ranger sold 2.93 million copies, Shadows of Almia sold 2.35 million copies, and Guardian Signs sold 1.53 million copies. Now, Pokemon Ranger actually didn't do as well as I thought it had, and I always loved this idea, Pokemon came up with. The next spin-off series is actually a series I've never even heard of, and probably for good reason. Pokemon Rumble had quite a few games, first releasing on the Wii in 2009 as a WiiWare exclusive. The next one was released in 2011 for the 3DS called Pokemon Rumble Blast or Super Pokemon Rumble. 2013 on the Wii U, another digital exclusive release called Rumble U, and the last one came out for the 3DS in 2015 called Rumble World. Now these numbers are going to look a bit different than the rest of them, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Yeah, so as we can see here, the only sale numbers I was able to confirm were for Pokemon Rumble Blast, which sold 1.4 million copies. All the other sales numbers I found were minuscule. I mean, I couldn't even find sales data for Rumble U and Rumble World. Up next is another series which I hadn't heard of, and it was the Pokemon Park series. The first game called Pokemon Park Wii Pikachu Adventure released on the Wii in 2010. And in 2011, again on the Wii, Pokemon Park 2 Wonders Beyond was released. Pokemon Park Wii Pikachu Adventure sold 1.25 million copies, where Pokemon Park 2 Wonders Beyond sold roughly 760,000 copies. Again, the sales didn't surprise me too much because I'd never heard of this series. Lastly, we have Pokken Tournament. First releasing in 2016 on the Wii U, and then again on the Switch in 2017, albeit with a DX added at the end. And looking at these numbers, the Pokken Tournament for the Wii U sold roughly 1 million copies, where the Pokken Tournament DX sold 1.8 million copies. So these sales didn't surprise me again, even though I had heard of the games. In fact, I've actually played Pokken before. Pokken was a mix between Pokemon and Tekken, thus making it a fighting game. And a lot of fighting games don't sell too well, but do have a very strong, dedicated fan base. So those were my findings. Let's get into the lists. So I mentioned at the start that I was making 3 lists for this topic. The total sales, the number of games, and which single game sold the best. So let's start off with what series sold the most overall. Yeah, I was partially right. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon had the most sales overall, coming in at a combined 16.62 million copies. And then going down the list here, the Pokemon Stadium series sold 11.32 million copies. Pokemon Ranger is in third place with 6.81 million copies. Pokemon Pinball with 6.8 million copies. Pokemon Snap with just shy of 6 million copies. The Pokemon Card Game Video Games with 4.6 million copies. The Pokemon Colosseum series with 3.83 million. The Pokken Tournament with 2.8 million. The Pikachu series with 2.3 million. The Pokemon Park series with 2 million. And finally, last and probably least, the Pokemon Rumble games with 1.8 million sold. The next list actually gets interesting. This is the number of games in each spin-off series. So at the top again is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon with a total of 6 titles. After this, it actually was really interesting. Tied for second place is Pokemon Rumble, the game with the least amount of sales, and Pokemon Stadium, both having 4 titles to their names. In fourth place was Pokemon Ranger with 3 titles, and then the next 6 were all tied for 5th place with 2 games each. Those being the Pikachu series, the Pokemon card game video game, Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Pinball, Pokemon Colosseum, and the Pokemon Park series. Finally, in last place was Pokken Tournament with just 1. Now, I decided to count this as just a single title because the Pokken Tournament DX was just a port over to the Switch and not really a new game, at least from my understanding. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments down below. Last, but certainly not least, are the solo games that sold the most. Now, since there was a total of around 30 games that I looked at, I chose to only put the top 10 on this list. And really that's for my sake. At this time of writing this script, I'm about a month in. Yeah, it's taken me a little while to get this video done. So let's go ahead and go over the top 10 spin-off games that sold the most. In first place is the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue Rescue Team with the 6.23 million copies sold. In second place is Pokemon Stadium, or Pokemon Stadium 2 as it's known in Japan, which sold 5.46 million copies. After that was Pokemon Pinball, surprisingly, 5.31 million copies there. Then Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time and Darkness sold 4.88 million copies. Again, another surprising one in 5th place here, Pokemon Trading Card Game video game with 3.72 million. Pokemon Snap with 3.63 million, Pokemon Ranger with 2.93 million, Pokemon Stadium 2, or Pokemon Gold and Silver as it was known in Japan, sold 2.54 million. 9th place brings us Pokemon Colosseum with 2.41 million, and in 10th place is new Pokemon Snap with 2.36 million copies. So, to no one's surprise, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon's first game came in first, followed by Pokemon Stadium, which wasn't far behind. And I was surprised by the fact that the third most sold spin-off Pokemon game was Pokemon Pinball. So I initially set out to see which game was the most successful spin-off. And I think it is safe to say that one game series stands out above the rest. And that was number 1 on all 3 of my lists. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the most successful Pokemon spin-off games, and it's the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. They had the most in total sales, they had the most number of games, and 2 of its games, again, were in the top 4 of the most sold spin-off games. Well, that was a lot of info. Did you guys guess which game series was the most successful? Which of these spin-off games is your favorite, and which do you hope they continue to make? As I mentioned, I really hope to see another Pokemon Ranger game in the future. Anyways guys, that's going to do it for this video. If you found this video enjoyable, let me know by leaving a like. It really helps motivate me in making more videos like this, especially since they take quite a while to make. Again, this one I've been working on for about a month. Again, thank you all so much for watching this video, and I do hope to see you in the next one.